Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping right into a deeply moving piece of literature that tackles one of the absolute most universal human experiences out there. We're talking about the delicate, sometimes heartbreaking, but honestly beautiful nature of memory and loss. We are exploring Rabindranath Tagore's incredibly gentle lyric poem, I Cannot Remember My Mother. Now, Tagore was an absolute master at capturing these profound emotional depths using just the simplest imagery. And this poem? It's a perfect example of his genius. It explores how a child remembers a lost mother, not through clear, cold facts or a sharp mental photograph, but through this rich tapestry of sensory experiences.
Okay, let's dive into this. It's a pretty fascinating question, right? Think about it. If you close your eyes and try to picture a loved one from your very, very early childhood, the facial features might actually blur. The specific memories might just kind of fade into the background. But what happens to the feeling of them? Well, Tagore's poem insists that even when the direct visual memory of a face completely fades away, the emotional bond remains vibrantly strong. It lives on in these really quiet, lasting ways. The poem actually takes us on. Now, what's really interesting here is how this highlights the quiet paradox sitting at the absolute core of the poem. On one side, we have the absence of direct memory. The speaker literally admits right up front that they cannot recall their mother's face or voice directly. The mind has simply forgotten those hard details. But then, on the flip side, we have this enduring emotional presence. Through these everyday sensory triggers, a passing sound, a familiar smell, a vast sky, her presence is still keenly felt. It creates this powerful contrast, showing us that true memory isn't just some dusty filing cabinet of clear images. It's an emotional resonance that stays with us every single day.
First up, sound, the hovering lullaby.
The tone right at the start of the poem is gentle, reflective, and maybe just a little bit distant, as the speaker is trying to grasp a memory that sits just out of reach. Tagore writes, "A tune seems to hover over my playthings." Picture a child right in the middle of playing. Suddenly, a distant, soft tune interrupts their thoughts. This auditory imagery immediately links this present moment of solitary play back to the past comfort of a rocking cradle. The mother may be gone, sure, but the feeling of her comfort, carried by this faint little song, is right there in the room with him. And this brilliantly illustrates personification. It's giving the tune human-like qualities to make the moment feel truly alive. By describing the tune as something that can literally hover over the playthings, Tagore gives the song a watchful human nature. It's almost as if the tune itself has become the mother, a gentle, caring presence that stays nearby, keeping a close eye on the child while they play, even when the child isn't consciously trying to remember her. But it's not just the imagery. The structure of the language itself mimics the memory. Tagore uses enjambment, which is letting the sentence flow smoothly from one line to the next without a pause or a full stop. He writes, "The tune of some song that she used to hum while rocking my cradle." This seamless, continuous flow perfectly reflects the natural back-and-forth rocking movement of a cradle, right? And then add in the word hum. That onomatopoeia captures the soft, continuous sound of a lullaby perfectly. It makes the whole memory incredibly vivid, creating this immediate feeling of warmth and a soothing presence. Moving to our second sense, smell, the sacred shuli. Let's see how this builds. As the poem progresses into the second stanza, the mood softens and becomes even more comforting. We shift from the auditory to the olfactory, from sound to smell. Scientifically, smell is actually the sense most directly wired to the memory centers of our brain, and Tagore captures this perfectly with the fragrance of shuli flowers. Now, these aren't just any flowers. Also known as night-flowering jasmine, they bloom in the dark and fall to the ground by morning. Culturally, they carry a ton of weight. They're deeply linked to ideas of purity, tenderness, and quiet devotion. Because they're commonly used in morning temple prayers and offerings, they bring this profoundly sacred energy. Their delicate white and orange blossoms don't just smell good, they literally evoke a sense of spiritual peace. Which brings us to this absolutely beautiful line. The scent of the morning service in the temple comes to me as the scent of my mother. Notice how the speaker weaves the totally everyday experience of smelling autumn flowers with this deeply spiritual moment. The quiet, peaceful atmosphere of a morning temple service, which is a place of stillness and reflection, is suddenly perfectly merged with the pure memory of his mother. Tagore relies on a classic simile here, directly comparing the scent of the temple service to the scent of his mother. But by grounding her memory in this real, familiar, and recurring everyday experience, he elevates her memory entirely. He makes her presence feel pure, gentle, and incredibly close. Her memory is lifted right out of the ordinary into something enduring and truly sacred. Finally, we expand to sight, the protective sky. Here, the emotional journey shifts once more into a deeply spiritual calm as we transition to visual imagery. The speaker looks up and says, "The mother's gaze spread across the sky."
What a breathtaking use of visual imagery. The vast blue of the distant sky acts as a symbol for boundless calmness. By imagining his mother's loving gaze spread across that entire, massive expanse, the speaker is showing us how her presence has grown way beyond just a personal, limited, physical memory. It's become universal. It's an all-encompassing, boundless protection. She is everywhere, watching over him with this silent, comforting love. Let's look at the architecture of emotion.
To really appreciate how Tagore achieves this profound effect, we have to map out the progression of the poem's structure. It's written in free verse, meaning it doesn't follow a strict, rigid rhyme scheme or meter. Instead, it has this soft, flowing quality. Actually, this lack of rigid structure perfectly mirrors how memory itself works. It comes to us quietly, seamlessly, and definitely without a fixed order. If we trace the emotional map through the 3 sections, it's brilliant. We start at the beginning with a tone that's quiet and slightly uncertain, setting a mood of peaceful but distinct sadness as the speaker admits they can't remember. Then, in the middle stanza with those Shuli flowers, the tone shifts. It becomes warm, nostalgic, creating a really soft, comforting mood. Finally, by the end, as we look up at the vast sky, the tone becomes calm and spiritual. That initial sense of loss is totally balanced by emotional connection, leaving us in a mood of deep inner peace and true acceptance.
So, the crucial point holding this entire emotional progression together is a structural anchor known as a refrain, the repeating of a main idea. And here, it's the title itself, I Cannot Remember My Mother, which repeats at the beginning of every single stanza. Every time it pops up, it introduces a new way the speaker feels her presence, first through sound, then smell, then sight. It constantly reminds us of the poem's central contrast, the painful loss of factual memory versus the unshakable endurance of emotional feeling. It really anchors the whole poem.
When we pull all of these elements together, the vivid sensory imagery, the shifting mood, that gentle free verse structure, the overarching theme of the poem becomes beautifully clear. Tagore is showing us that a mother's love, and honestly any profound human connection, doesn't depend on physical presence or having a perfect mental photograph. Even when those sharp details fade with time, the true relationship isn't lost. Not at all. It stays quietly within us. These bonds continue to shape our emotions, providing comfort and peace through the simplest, most everyday experiences.
Which leaves us with something deeply personal to chew on. Tagore found his mother in a faint lullaby, the scent of autumn flowers, and the vast blue sky. It really makes you wonder about the invisible threads in your own life. So how does love outlast physical memory for you? What small, everyday sensory triggers instantly connect you to the enduring presence of someone you love? It's a powerful thought to carry with you today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep looking for those quiet connections in the world around you.